Hello all my friends at WCReplays.com. This is Systemshark bringing to you another audio commentary, copyrighted 2009. WCReplays.com, so don't go stealing it, use a hoe. Yeah. This game is going to be played on a very, very fantastic map, a map that we have not seen in a long while. And that's because it's not a ladder map. This map is Plunder Isle, and this match was played for the King of the Hill WCR event that EPHEX held recently, actually yesterday for me, so I don't know whenever you guys get to see this commentary. It should be very soon, actually. And the winner of that match was Box. He was actually the winner of the last one as well, so very, very interesting to see him coming back. Although it was a King of the Hill style event, he did have to play through all the matches to make it all the way up to the top again and achieve victory. Something that we might change in the future, who knows? Something that he would like us to change in the future. And you know how I know that? Because I asked him a whole bunch of silly little interview questions. Maybe not silly, but some questions that I thought would be insightful for us to have for this commentary. And because I'm a cool coordinator and such a bigwig at WCR, I can PM members and ask them questions. I'm just kidding. I guess everybody could possibly do that for any reason whatsoever. But since I'm doing a commentary, I figured it would be cool to kind of get the player insight for the one and only Box, who is the King of the Hill champion for WCR. I've also included in this audio commentary a radio thingamajigga that I did a few weeks ago, and this was with a top 40 station here in Pittsburgh, a real station. This is owned by CBS, so a real radio station let me on the air. They actually had something called a fourth mic, which is open for public use, and I decided to clip the 3 and 4 hours, however long I was there, together, all my segments that I participated in together. And it turns out to be about 10 or 11 minutes long. So if you guys want to check it out and hear how I did on the radio, which I didn't do that very good. I was pretty nervous. Didn't have a lot of time to think about what I really wanted to say. I don't know. I had a really good time doing it. And as you guys can tell from the audio, if you check it out, is they kind of reamed me a lot for being a gamer, for being maybe a nerd or something like that, which I'm totally cool with. I love being a part of it, and I'm not mad at anybody for any reason at all. In fact, I'm happy that I was given the opportunity to do that. Even though it sounded maybe a little fun that I wasn't having a good time, or maybe that they were being really mean to me. They weren't. It's just all entertainment, and we were trying to, sell radio. So that's how it kind of worked for them. I hope to do a lot more in the future. I'm going to definitely go back in another, half a month or so now, maybe another 2-3 weeks, to see if they'll let me back on to talk more about gaming. They said I was more than welcome to come back, so hopefully they meant that. And hopefully they had a good time, because I definitely did. The tournament was supposed to be a best of 3 matches. In Game 3, what happened was Box had some internet problems, and this is actually a pretty well-known issue. He ended up disconnecting at in the middle of the match. Luckily, EPHEX made a really good decision. EPHEX is a replay staff member who ended up coordinating this whole tournament and did a very, very good job, I think. He made a good decision and that both the players ended up agreeing with. Valley did as well, to play this Game 4, and both players agreed to play random, which they did. Played on a very fun map is what they called it. So this is a random map that no one really played on or had that much experience. So it's kind of cool that the tournament ended out this way, in my humble opinion, as it goes. So we're going to go ahead and get it started, and as we're going into it, we're going to notice very quickly what Box decides to do, and because it's one of those strategies that kind of tend to drag on a little bit, we will read over some of his interview questions. And I asked him interview questions in general, general about the tournament and some other things. And then I also asked him specific questions about the different games that he played, which I'll probably get into those a little bit later on. And then we're going to unpause it in 5 seconds. So get ready. Unpause in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Unpause. I actually have some bad news. I did this whole audio commentary just about an hour ago, and we had some power issues here at the old homestead. Right in the middle of me doing the final edits for the audio, the power went out and I lost the entire audio file. It was about 45 minutes. Very much a pain in the butt as an audio commentator. Any commentator can tell you, or anyone who does any work using a computer, as soon as the power goes out and you haven't had an opportunity to save or do anything like that, it's very, very frustrating. So in hindsight, maybe a good thing, because now I get to kind of correct some of the things that maybe I thought I ranted on a little bit too much, and maybe we can skim the audio file down a little bit more so it's not a whole hour-long audio. Maybe we can get this down to 30 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less. We'll see how it works out. This replay file is actually a very, very short replay. This is a smaller map, and as you guys can tell by the elapsed time, if you could do some rough estimates based on the position of the elapsed time meter there, it's about a 20-minute long audio or so. 20-minute long replay. Now that we're at the 2-minute mark, which is generally where people pause and unpause replays, I did a little bit sooner so I could yammer on a little bit about complaining about having an audio, but the strategy we're seeing, very, very obvious now. A dual Ancients of War and a Priestess of the Moon. Very, very interesting. You'll notice that both players did some early scouting early on. You could tell by the 1 minute mark that there's a peasant being scouted out or sent at the Night Elf's main base, so he already knows that there's not a lot at his main base, but he still opts to do this fast creeping, and then in a second, Valley's also going to opt to do that fast expo here at the gold mine up on the ledge. And this is something that Box was kind of expecting and predicting. Right now, this point in time right now, is the time where it's really going to be hurting Valley. He had to make the decision right now to do that fast expo, and based on what he saw from the no buildings at all near his base, maybe he should scout out a little bit more or find out where those Ancients of War are coming, what strategy to expect. But he does opt for this fast expo, and we'll see how that turns out. Interesting to note that Box opted for the searing arrows on his Priestess of the Moon as opposed to the as opposed to the aura. Bah. So the aura is something that most bottom hunt users will go first. And I asked him about this and a little later on about this match, which I guess we'll go over right now since we're talking about it, why he opted to go Searing Arrows. He said Searing Arrows are just best by testing. I don't want to make up some analysis, but it makes your bottom more painful at the start. You wouldn't see Freedom go Arrows over Aura and Mirror. I don't know if he had expected to be a mirror match or what, but he does have his reasons for going Searing Arrow first in the strategy, and it is very effective, as we'll see. He is pretty successful with it. He ends up pulling out a win. I just spoiled it for you there, and you know how I love doing that in my audios, is spoiling who wins in the first 2 minutes. So, and plus you guys can tell that from the show winner button. So we are seeing mass hunts, and right now, where you're watching all the action happen, this is where it happens the whole rest of the game. So you can just click your mouse in the middle of the screen, right now where all this action's happening, and just leave it here if you want, because this is where it's all going to happen for the next 15 minutes or so of the replay. Not a lot of moving going on. It's going to be a lot of little micro decisions by Box to bring in and out weak huntresses, and by Valley to continue bringing footmen through Box's army, who's just going to be sitting there. Basically, Box is going to be blocking, or is going to be boxing, haha, that's funny, boxing Valley into this expo spot. Valley does a good job of actually getting the expo up. He continues to bring militia and footmen and tries to defend it. However, it ends up taking a lot of time and a lot of resources. Box really makes Valley pay for this expo. He does a good job getting some dust so he can pick off those hunts that are using the nighttime hide to be a harassing pain in the butt. And a lot of these peasants are having to mass prepare and mass build these town halls. It's going to cost a lot of resources again for Valley to keep this going. And as we continue watching, we'll see how that goes. Let me go back into the interview questions, since this is pretty much just going to last the whole game. I asked, since obviously not a lot of players are going to be seeing Plunder Isle on their typical map pool, what are some key points to this mass hunt strategy that is effective? He said that Warden pushes are typically the vogue for this strategy, are typically the vogue right now, in vogue, so I guess that means in style right now for a lot of Night Elf players to use versus Human on smaller maps. So he also says that Warden pushes are very hard for Human to beat. I asked him earlier on what his main race was, so I know this, but I'll tell you guys now that Human is indeed Box's main race versus his own words. Although the 2 matches that he ended up winning for this event, Game 1 and this Game 4, he ended up playing Night Elf and doing very, very successful. And the games where he played Human was Game 3, and that got the disqualified or the disconnect, so it kind of got voided. And in Game 2, he lost his Orc. And we'll go into those other games later on as well. But is a Human player, gives him a serious advantage on playing versus Human, since he knows all their weaknesses. So he definitely knows that hunts are very hard for Human to beat. He also says Warden is hard for them to beat. He says there are many choices and many variations with the Warden push, and most of them involving Tier 2. He thinks a Tier 1 Dryad Glaive mix is especially potent, but pure hunts and glaives is very good too. So this is kind of what he, this was what going in his mind when he decided to go the bottom hunts. He was obviously going for a fast Tier 1 push and trying to end it very, very early. Valley does a good job of making the game last out of a very reputable amount of time. And both players end up making support micro decisions throughout the match and lose a bunch of their units, little units. They also make very good decisions and end up saving a lot of low HP units too. Valley does end up losing a lot of those water elementals that he uses to try to pick off the glaive throwers and some weak huntresses, because they're basically like Water Torrent is the nickname that a lot of players give them, because they have a lot of hit points. And they have piercing damage, which does extra to these hunts, so it's very, very useful against picking off hunts. Actually pretty useful at picking off the low HP glaive throwers as well, although their armor type counters it a little bit. So we're seeing the push keep going back and forth here. Very, very interesting, blah, blah, blah. I hate to shoutcast it because, like I said, this goes back and forth, but this is a good point to make. A lot of players, the players in this game are giving each other a lot of experience, and later on in this game we're going to see how much experience plays in getting these heroes experience. Let's go back to some of his general questions that I asked him. I think it's kind of interesting to kind of get inside the player's mind. Now, he just played this match